Hello and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a brand new video. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Amelia and I upload all kind of book content such as reading vlogs, reading wrap-ups, you name it. And if you're not new here, then welcome back. Whew, I feel like I've just been just chatting a mile, but I've literally just chatted for 20 seconds. Am I okay? Probably not. However, if you haven't gathered by the title, today I am going to be telling you all the books that I want to reread. So these are all the books that I've read in the past few years that I just want to reread. I'm not even going to go in a particular order, and there is like I think there's like 2 or 3 that the physical copy is either in a box that I cannot get to right now, or it is I actually unhauled it because, not because I didn't want to reread it, just because I didn't want to keep it. I'd reread it on Kindle or something. No, I can't end up rebuying it, but let's hope we don't. So we're just going to go through them. I'm going to start with the, I think, I have notes on my notes. 2 on my notes, and then the rest of them are physical. So we'll go through the 2 on my notes, and then I'll show the physical ones. So the first one is, and I didn't think I'd ever want to reread it because it's such a long book, and it was a good book, but I wouldn't say it's like my favourite book of all time. And that is Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. I've recently been interested in reading her newer book, which is called Promise Me Not, and then there's a 3rd one coming out in a few months' time. I don't remember really the characters in there. I remember Ariana, and then there's a guy called Noah and a guy called Ethan, but I don't think there was anyone else. I know there was other people, but I don't remember. Was it Cameron and there was someone else? I don't really remember like all of the characters' names, so I'm still just like getting used to it. Also, there's a bit of hair, I think. So, but I feel like I just want to reread it to remind myself what happened. Like, I know the basics of what happened, I know what happened at the end, and I know like the relationship, and I love the love triangle and all this lot. But there's just some things I feel like I missed or I need to reread. So that's one of the ones I really want to reread, just because I want to remind myself what happened. So I would love to remind myself what happened, just because then I can read the other 2 books, and I'm pretty sure it is on Kindle Unlimited. So it might be something I could pick up at some point and read on my Kindle whenever I want to do another reread video, maybe. And then the last one on my list that I know I still have, but I can't get to the box right now, and that is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This book was like an ultimate 5-star read last year. I absolutely loved this book. I loved everything about this book, and Win and Bo. I loved the story, and I didn't annotate it at the time. I was reading it, the majority of it I read travelling back from Nottingham, travelling to and back from Nottingham, when I went to see my friend up there, and I was like, obviously needed a book to read this long train journey, so I read majority of that on it, and I was hooked, obsessed with that book, and I absolutely loved it, and I definitely would recommend to anyone, to be fair. It's so good, and I really want to go back and reread it, but I want to reread it and annotate it, just because there were so many things that I would love to just highlight and like, you know, comment on, because it was just so good, and I was hooked from the get-go. I was hooked. So yeah, we are now then moving on to the books that are on here. There is a few, some of them are serious, some of them are not. I wouldn't say there's a lot, but there's enough, and hopefully I'll talk about it. I mean, it's video not 5 minutes long, but I don't think it's going to be an extremely long video, so that's the first for me, because I like to ramble. Anyway, we will be if I just get off topic. The first book I'm going to mention is a prized possession of mine. It's my favourite book I ever read in 2022, alongside Daisy Jones and the Six. Like, those 2 held the top spot for me that year, and I loved it. And it is Archer's Voice by Amelia Sheridan. I have not read this book in a lot, like, since then, and I really, really want to reread it, like, so bad. This is the actual, I want to reread it, this one, because this is the annotated special edition that that Amelia Sheridan released, and I pre-ordered this because I needed it. I knew I needed this book in my life, and I'm so happy I have it. I feel so privileged to have the special edition, so I want to read it with the annotations that she's done on it. I loved it, and this follows Bree and Archer. Bree can speak sign language. She moves to Maine to get away from everything that's happening back in her hometown, and then she meets Archer, who is mute, so she signs to him, and it starts a very beautiful relationship, but it's also very emotional, and my heart can't take it. And considering her other books that I've read Most of All You and More Than Words, and I didn't like them. Like, they were okay, I just didn't like them. This one I was obsessed with. So, I cannot wait to reread this at some point. I don't know when it'll be. I'm really scared to reread it because I'm scared it's not going to live up to the same expectations I had like 3 years ago. So fingers crossed it does. But we then have, and I've lost the other one, 2 books from the Chestnut Spring series. I could put all the first 4. I do not want to reread the last one. Did not like Hopeless. It just didn't hit for me. I feel like maybe if I reread it, maybe it would, but I just didn't. It just did not hit for me. So sadly, that book will not be picked up again. Did not mind Powerless, but the 2 I picked up, the 2 I literally could not put down, and it is Heartless and Reckless. I think because this is a single dad and nanny trope, and this is an accidental pregnancy trope. Can we guess? Because we're out on a limb in an accidental pregnancy trope. So you got Heartless that follows Cade and Willa. I literally love this relationship. Cade and Willa, like, I'm obsessed. I am obsessed with Cade. Like, Cade Eaton is literally my ultimate boyfriend, one of them. I absolutely love this book. I remember reading it, and I did it for a video, and I can't remember what video it was. Reading 200 pages a week, and it was the first time I ever did reading 200 pages a week, and I was so glad I had this book. I literally didn't want to put it down. I loved everything about it. I just loved the story. I loved the relationship. I loved watching Willa with Cade's son, and I loved watching Cade and Willa like form a relationship, and it's just so good. I do wonder where they would be right now, like now that the book's been out for a while. Are they still together? Are they married? Have they got kids? I mean, we know that maybe they do. I just love this book. And then you have Elsie Silver, Reckless. I picked this up, I think it was in a continued series video at the beginning of 2024, but it was also just after I finished Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home, but I was also in a bit of a slump. Like, I mean, I wouldn't say Magnolia Park put me in a slump because it didn't. I was just getting out of a slump slowly, and I just hadn't felt like I was still kind of in that slumpy feel. And I picked this up and I devoured it in 2 days. I was just hooked. We was back at work, and I remember work was quiet, so that time I was reading. Oh my god, like, I did not want to put this book down. I was obsessed with it, and I honestly can't tell you that I did not expect to be obsessed with this book. I thought I was not going to like it as much. Hands down, one of my favourite books of this series, and that is why I want to reread this one and this one. Like, I think I will probably pick these up, but won't read the other ones. Now that I've read the series in order once, I don't really need to like read the whole series in order again just to get to these books, so I might just read them at any time. So yeah. We then have my prized possessions, my favourite babies ever, and it is the Magnolia Park series. I haven't included Daisy Hates. I love the second Daisy Hates books, and I cannot wait for the next ones to come out. But I didn't really love the first one when I first read it, and I just think I'm probably not going to reread those ones. I might actually when it comes to we get a release date for the next one, but right now, no. So instead, I've got just the 3 Magnolia Parks books. We've got the first Magnolia Parks book, which is just Magnolia Parks, and these are actually the newer covers because I haven't read from these ones because I obviously read from the other covers, but I just can't bother to get them out. So this one, and then we've got Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home, which is the second book, and then we got Magnolia Parks Into the Dark, which is the last book. And honestly, I can't tell you which one is my favourite because I just love them all so much. I think it's probably, but it is a tie between Long Way Home and Into the Dark because I just felt like they developed a lot more of the story in there, but I just loved it. I remember when I read the first one because I finished reading it at the theatre. I was at work at the Harlequin before rehearsals for Bonnie and Clyde, and I remember specifically I finished it on shift, and I was like, okay, and I now I've got to go do a 4-hour rehearsal after reading that, like, what the actual hell. But I love these books. These ones are following Magnolia and BJ, and it's a very toxic relationship. BJ cheated on Magnolia, but they have this tie together that they can't like leave, and it's always they're just each other trying to make each other jealous and hurt each other reality wise. But yeah, such good books. I love it, and I want to reread it them all so badly. But I'm not mentally prepared for that right now. So maybe in the future I will be, but mentally I'm not prepared to get back into this world again. It's just a lot. They are very heavy in some ways, but especially the last book, very, very mentally heavy. And I would say the second book as well. Also, I'm really upset if I kind of damaged this book, but it's okay. We then have the only book from the Twisted series that I actually think I would reread, and that is Twisted Games by Anna Huang. I remember reading this book like 2023, and I remember when I started it, and then I was going to Paris, and then I decided to stop, and I came back and then binged it. But I was obsessed. Reese and Bridget were like two of I literally love them. They were my favourite couple in the Twisted series, and nothing has topped them. Out of those 4 books I read, nothing topped this one. This one was just so good. Like, I'm sorry, but a bodyguard and princess relationship, are you kidding me? So absolutely loved it, absolutely devoured it, would read again, loved it. I realise I'm not explaining too much about these books and I'm not really that fussed about it. I'm telling you what ones I want to reread. Also, the ones I want to reread are all popular BookTok ones. You probably know what they're about anyway, but I absolutely love it. And I just loved their story and I was hooked. And I feel like I want to reread it, but I'm also scared to reread it. So maybe in the future it's something I'll look into doing. We then have, to be fair, I want to reread this whole series, and I reread the first book this year. And I want to reread this Terms and Conditions, but it's not high up on my reread list. What I do want to reread is The Final Offer by Lauren Asher. This is the final book on the Dreamland Millionaire series. This is Cal and Alana's book, and like, if you see how much I tabbed that, and I annotated in it as well. And I read this in show week of Bonnie and Clyde, and I did it for reading for my screen time, and honestly, so good. I absolutely loved it, and I devoured it. Just can't tell you how good this book is, so go read it. If you haven't read the series, this whole series, you need to. It's literally a billionaire series, and the first one is following Zara and Rowan, and she's a designer. Well, she works at the Dreamland, and she wants to become one of the designers for Dreamland, and so she submits a letter to the Dreamland thing while she's drunk, and then she somehow gets called in and gets hired. And Rowan pretty much despises her but hires her anyway in it. And then as time goes by, you know what happens. And then Terms and Condition is a marriage of convenience. Not arranged marriage, but marriage of convenience. So obviously, I should have said, in these books you're following these 3 brothers who have to complete something to get their inheritance from their granddad's inheritance. So the first one, he needs to at least stay on board of Dreamland, like rebrand stuff in order to get his inheritance. Then Declan has to basically get married and have a kid. So they're trying to find a wife, but everyone they find is not right. So then Iris comes in, and basically Iris is best friends with our leading guy in this book, and Iris is also Declan's personal assistant, so she knows him better than anyone else. So she just agrees to marry him, and it's marriage of convenience, and it's great. I loved it, so good. And then you got this one, which is Cal and Alana. Cal is given the mission that he should probably go and sell his there's a house they have in Lake Wisteria, and he needed to spend the summer at the lake house in Lake Wisteria and then sell it. And then whilst he's there, his ex-girlfriend, the love of his life, Alana, is living there with this kid. And he's also Cal is a bit of an alcoholic, so you see his like struggles through this book, and oh my god, it's so good. I don't want to talk too much about it and ruin it, so yeah, I want to reread this book so much, but no idea when I will get there. Whew, we're getting near the end, guys. We then have The Friend Zone by Abby Jimenez. I didn't rate this like 5 stars or anything, but I did remember reading it and enjoying it. And I listened to all this on audiobook, and I would love to reread it so I can annotate it, because I remember reading it, I was like, there's things I want to annotate in this book so much. But obviously I was reading it as an audiobook, so I couldn't do that. But this book is so good, from what I remember. It's quite floppy as well. And this follows Kristen and Josh. I haven't read it for a while, so it is a bit of a reminder. Kristen is best friends with our girl Sloane from the Happy Ever After playlist. And she's got like a lot of like period problems, best way I can describe it. And then she meets her best friend's partner's best friend, Josh, who is the best man. They don't exactly originally the right foot as far as I'm aware, and then they become friends, and we can see where it goes from there. But it's really good. I enjoyed it so much, and I actually cannot wait to reread it. But there's also certain chapters that now I've read the Happy Ever After playlist hit even harder. But also I'm glad I read this before the Happy Ever After playlist, because I think it made that one more of an impact for me because of this book. Because the way that story starts, it's after things that happen in this book. So yeah. We then have Happy Place by Emily Henry. I was actually starting to reread this like last year, so hence why I'm trying my hardest not to drop out my little bookmark from where I got up to, but I probably will restart. But we have Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is the American cover. I got this when I went to New York. I got this from the Rip Bodice because I really wanted to get one book from America, but I was like, if I'm going to do so, I think it's going to be Happy Place because I knew the cover was beautiful and I loved it, and it was one of my favourite books with Emily Henry, so had to. And I really want to reread this. It follows Harriet and Wynne, and their relationship is beautiful. There's so much to go through it. They met in college, they started dating, but they're basically going to with their friends to a beach house, I think it is, or something, where they all stay together. They treasure a holiday there every year, and they find out they're selling it, but they go, and because they've broken up, but their friends don't think they've broken up, because they haven't told any of their friends, they're having to basically be in a fake relationship again throughout the book, and it's intriguing, it's fun and good, and I've really not described that very well, so go read it for yourself to find out. Okay, we're moving on to the bit more, my final few books. We got a dark romance and we got two fantasies, so bear with though, I need to blow my nose. The next one I want to reread is this chunky book. It's actually got like 5 books in it, but it's all in one bind up, and it is the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. I remember reading this. I started it for a 24 hours of reading at the end of 2023, and I didn't know what to read, and so I picked up the first book in this series. I was like, why not? And I got hooked. Like, I got fully hooked, and now I just want to reread it so bad. Like, I just want to reread this whole book. Like, I remember being obsessed with this because they're like 5 different novellas. I will probably end up rereading it on my Kindle again because it's just so much easier. But I do love this book and I cannot wait. And I'm so glad I have the physical copy as a prized possession though, because it's just... This cost me £23. Which, if you think about it, if you bought all those books separately, it probably would be a lot more, but not the point, £23. I love this book so much. It's just so good. You're following a girl called Lana who basically is a serial killer. I wouldn't say for the right reasons, because I don't think it is a right reason to be a serial killer, but I would say she has her reasoning, and in her sight it seems like a good idea, and if you read it you kind of do understand where she's coming from. But then you have Logan, who is the FBI agent who is assigned to her case and finding her. But then they meet, and he doesn't think it's a woman, and so he's not thinking it's her. And for this whole majority of the book, he's like, no, he's going after people, and it's just so good. And I love it so much. I really want to reread it. We then have, and I don't just mean this book, I mean the whole series, but I just can't wait to get them down off my wardrobe, the Harry Potter series. I have just finally finished the series after so long. I reread the first 2 because I'd read them when I was younger in 2022 when I first got back into reading. Like, I think the first book I read when I was getting back into reading was Harry Potter, the first one. And I then read the first 3 in 2022. Then I read Goblet of Fire and Order of Phoenix and Half-Blood Prince last year, because they are in my book journal, so that's how I remember. And then I've just finished this one, The Deathly Hallows, and I want to reread them all again. I know I've watched the films like countless times. I can't tell you how many times I've rewatched the films. I don't know if this series is going to become one of those ones that I just reread, because I love it, and I love the audiobooks. I've got the last 4 on audio, so I'm very tempted to buy it when I get my credits for Audible to get the first 3 as audiobooks and Audible, so I can just re-listen to them whenever I want to, which is really bad. But I just love this series, and I love that feeling of being in the Harry Potter world, that I would just love to reread the whole series again at some point. Maybe not right now, but I do want to reread the series at some point because it's just so good. And it's just a nostalgic feeling, so. And then finally, I Don't Think I Have a Doubt. I'm surprised Fourth Wing didn't make it on here, but I have recently reread that first one, and I mean I do need to reread Iron Flame, but I just don't really want to put them on there right now, because that means rereading Onyx Storm as well, and I don't think I'm prepared for all of that right now, so that's not in it. But it gets an honorary mention because I probably will end up rereading them all. Probably for a video as well, because I was hoping to do a spoiler video of all 3 books. So maybe this year, maybe next year, who knows. However, I think it comes with no surprise when I put the next ones, the last books in here. Now, I do mean I want to reread the whole series, but if I was to have to choose 2 out of the series, I feel like you can't. When you reread fantasy series, you need to read them all in order when you reread them, no matter what. But if I was to just choose specific books in the series that I want to reread, these are the 2. But it is the ACOTAR series. I do want to reread all of them. Like, I want to read from A Court of Thorns and Roses onwards, because I just miss it. Like, I've forgotten what it feels like to be reading those books. So, however, if I was to choose the 2 books that I want to reread specifically, it is A Court of Mist and Fury, because this book just, I'm sorry, but I don't know what Sarah J Maas put in this book, but I was hooked. I just cannot tell you how much I loved it. So I'm looking at my tabbing key, there you go. I just loved everything about this book so much, and I would do anything to reread it, because I just remember the feels. I just can't get over how I felt about this book. Just everything about this book, I was just like, loved it. And then I would also do anything to reread A Court of Silver Flames, because now I know it was not everyone's favourite. It was one of my favourite books from the series, and I tell you why. Character progression. Nesta, I hated her for 4 books. And then I suddenly fell in love with her, and I'm like, if a book can do that, it means, for me, it's a good book. Because I don't usually hate many characters, but when I hate someone, I'm like, you're never going to get me back. I mean, they've done the same with the Iron Flame series, in the Full Thing series, with Dane. Hated him for like 2 books, and now I'm like, oh, don't hate him anymore, which is bad, because I wanted to hate him. So see what happens in the next book, Rebecca. But I thoroughly would love to reread this book. I don't know what I just said there, that didn't make sense, but I would love to reread this book. It's just so good. So these 2 books out of that whole series, I would love to reread, but I want to reread the whole series. So yeah. But that means this video is coming to an end, because I've talked about every book I want to reread. I know how to take these back on my shelf, which is a lot of effort, but it's fine. I'm going to get a matcha, and then I'm going to do that. And then, well, I'm not going to get one, I'm going to make a matcha. But I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, please comment down below, please subscribe, and I will see you again very soon with another video.